Welcome to a new vlog. I got a really tiny, needy human today, so I'm holding this little one as I try to vlog. I just want to say welcome to a new vlog. Today it's the 13th of October 2021 and I'll be reading Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I bought this when it was still shortlisted for the Women's Prize 2021, Women's Prize for Fiction 2021, and a couple of weeks later it won. I had a feeling that it was going to be something that was going to win because the premise is quite interesting. So let me read from the blurb. Now I don't have my glasses and I'm holding a child, so excuse my terrible reading. Piranesi lives in the house, perhaps he always has. Then messages begin to appear. Start out in chalk on the pavement. There is someone new in the house, but who are they and what do they want? Lost text must be found, secrets must be uncovered. The word that Piranesi thought he knew is becoming strange and dangerous. The beauty of the house is immeasurable, its kindness infinite. So I think this can be classified as potentially science fiction. I know that Susanna Clarke has written another book, which is, what's it called? Mr. Norrell? No, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Yes, hi. And that is fiction, middle grade fiction, young adult fiction, adult fiction, I don't know. I haven't read it. I saw it's massive. And, oh, yes, hi. Hi. But yeah, so it's a fairly short book. And I would love to finish it by the end of the week, but also I've said these words many times before, and as you can see, don't really have that many hands free. Things are happening today. It's a Wednesday, so we're heading off to Pilates soon, but I also need to head to the post office to drop off a parcel. Post office, Pilates class, come back home, eat. I need to remember to eat. Some more exercise. Chapter edits, read a book. We can do this. I mean, not necessarily in this order, with the exception of the first two items on the list, but we'll manage to do everything, yeah? What do you reckon? Are you going to allow me to do stuff? But first of all, I have a dog down here, and she wants to go for a walkie. Yes? Bless her, she's waving her tail and wagging her tail and stretching. Yes, excitement. Excitement is real, everyone. But yeah. Welcome to a new reading vlog. It might be slightly different from usual, but we'll manage. Also, can we point out my daughter's little bald patch is hilarious. It's okay, I like you. Even if you were completely bald, I'd love you. Right, catch you later. Can you see how flush my cheeks are? That's not because I've ran or because it's warm. It's because it's incredibly cold outside. I did not realize it was going to be this cold. I also feel like I'm getting a little bit sniffly, but don't worry. Negative COVID test. She has obviously fallen asleep also. Can we discuss how cute this is? But yeah, she's fallen asleep. She's now snoring in my arms. I don't know what to do. I don't want to risk waking her up. But then she's going to have to eat in about an hour from now. So, can I be like this for an hour? But she's also going to get really warm. So, cute. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think I'll take her out of this. Hello. I have just finished part 1 of Piranesi. And I wanted to have a little chat about it. So, it's not long. It's just about, 20 pages. But oh my god. I was so right and I'm so glad I picked up this book. So let's start with an introduction. We know that this is happening in the form of a diary. So we are reading the diary of Piranesi, who's the main character. Piranesi is male, around 180 something meters tall. He's between the age of 30 and 35 and he lives in the house. And the house is the sort of this living but also dead, as in it's a house and it's massive, and it's the main place, if not the only place, where the story is going to take place. The house has 3 levels. So there is the bottom level, which is the kingdom of the tides or something like that. Basically, is water. And if you look out the windows, you see water. Then there is the top level, which is the kingdom of the clouds or something on those lines. And there is storms, there is clouds, there is rain, and the rain falls down and all that. And then there is the middle bit, which is the inhabitable part, where there are animals and men. That being said, we know from Piranesi that he only knows of the existence of 15 people besides him, one being us, the reader, and then 15 other people, him included. But there are only 2 of them that are currently alive, himself and the other, who's also male, but he's much older, is 50 to 60 years old. He can't quite determine his age, and is slender, male, taller than Piranesi. And they meet twice a week for about an hour. Now, we know about the other people because Piranesi has gone through the many rooms, although not all the rooms, and he's found corpses. So, based on the bones that he's found, he's determined that there were this many other people. You can see that these people have probably not existed all at the same time, because some of them are, like, there is the, what's it called, the biscuit tin one, for instance, is the skeleton of a man who has been sort of like deassembled, and the bones have been stacked in various piles, including one that is in a biscuit tin. So you can tell that whenever he lived and then died, and somebody else must have come later and then sort of arranged the bones in a certain order. And then there is another character, which is the most touching one so far, which is a folded up child. And Piranesi encounters the skeleton of this child, which is folded up, in the fetal position, and he established the skeleton to be of a girl, very young, 7 years old. But also the conclusion he draws is that the house had put the child in itself so that it could be Piranesi's companion and, potentially lead to reproduction of the humankind. Now, we don't know who else is in the house. We don't know if there are more people in the house, but this house is massive. I think there was a bit where Piranesi says he has explored 900 something rooms, halls. So we can only imagine this probably has 1,000 more rooms, halls, whatever you want to call them. And the other thing that is very unique is that there are many statues all around the place, but there are basically no rooms that are empty of statues. And the cover that we see of this little fawn kind of figure, is Piranesi's favorite statue, which is in one of the halls. Now, there is a line, I earmarked this. There is a line where he says, I dreamt of him once, and he's referring to the statue. He was standing in a snowy forest and speaking to a female child. Now, look at the image again. What does it remind you of? To me, is a very clear reference. Not clear, but could it be that Piranesi has read Narnia the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis? Could it be that he is remembering something that he has read about rather than seen or dreamt about? Also, the other point that I wanted to make is that time is measured in a different way. So he talks about his journals, and so far he has filled 9 journals, and we're currently reading the 10th journal. And you see the journal number 1 is labeled December 2011 to June 2012, and number 2 is labeled June 2012 to November 2012. So we know that he has entered, or at least he started writing in 2011. So up until then, he used the current calendar that we are accustomed to. So something has then switched, and he started labeling months and years based on discoveries he's made or things he's seen. So for instance, the following journal Number 3 was originally labelled November 2012, but this has been crossed out at some point and relabelled 13th day of the 12th month in the year of weeping and wailing to the 4th day of the 7th month in the year I discovered the coral halls. So again, he switches from one calendar to his own set of calendar, and it's as if he cannot remember why he used to use the years as we know them, because he's obviously been in the halls for a really long time. The other thing that we know about him is that he's a scientist, or at least a self-proclaimed scientist, which makes me wonder whether he is currently in the house because he went on an exploration journey. So he wanted to explore, he wanted to find out, and then he sort of got stuck and stayed there for, well, we can only imagine it's probably 10 years. The other thing that I noticed about this book is that it is a combination. What you hear in the background is my daughter trying to get her dummy in her mouth. Does she need rescuing? She does need rescuing. 1 sec. The other thing that really strikes me about this book is that we see a lot of, like, the first thing especially when I read the description of the house, the way it sort of has 3 levels with huge, immense halls and statues and all that. The first thing I thought is Dante's Divine Comedy, because if you've read it, it starts with hell, then you go into purgatory, and then you go into heaven. And then if you think about how stuff is done, hell is very much about pain. It has all the, what's the word in English, gironi, it has basically the circles, in which, you know, you go from one pain to another, to another, to another. Then there is purgatory, which is a sort of state of suspended reality, which we can very much compare to what Piranesi is probably feeling in the inhabitable part of the house. And then higher up in heaven for Dante, then that's where, you know, you have the saints, you have the god, you have all the people that you lost and went to heaven and all that. And I feel like obviously in Christian culture, heaven is something high up in the clouds and all that, and very much like that, the top floor of the house is the kingdom of the clouds. So I can definitely see that there must be some sort of influence from Dante to Susanna Clarke's Piranesi. The other thing that I noticed is how, especially the description of the bones and the dead bodies, which were found by Piranesi and sort of labelled in order to keep track of the people who've lived in the house, it reminds me a lot of Lord of the Rings, especially in the Fellowship of the Ring, when they go into the caves of the dwarves. So they go into the tunnels, and then they start finding the corpses. They start finding, you know, the damage made by the orcs, and that really reminds me the sense of eeriness connected to this large empty rooms with some skeletons in them. That really reminds me of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, especially that scene. So I can see that there is a lot of potential in this book, and I was reading it and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to read some more. But I really wanted to have this little update because I think it's very early on, but I can already see some influences from, obviously, the comedy by Dante, but then a lot of influences from some classics of the fantasy literature, being Lord of the Rings and potentially the Chronicles of Narnia. So we'll see what else this book has in store. The next part 2, is The Other, which is the name Piranesi uses for the other man currently alive in the house. So we'll see what The Other has to offer. I do wonder whether this is written from Piranesi's perspective or the other's perspective, but we'll see.
I'm pouring gasoline on the fire started in me. No one can cancel me. I'm swaying along with the trees. The sun is falling and the water is starting to freeze. That's why I close my eyes when I'm crossing the street. I keep a stack of letters from all my closest friends, so I know they're real, they really love me, 'cause they like.
I'm in my workout gear, and I look a bit tired. I tried to have a nap. We were successful in having a nap. It lasted a whole 9 minutes. I read a little bit more of Piranesi. I'm in the middle of part 2, which is the other. And again, we are reading it from the perspective of Piranesi himself. So I want to talk about the very beginning of part 2, which is called Butter Sea. And there is this interaction between the other and Piranesi, where the other wonders whether Piranesi, who's researching the various rooms in the house, who's sort of making a list of the statues and all that, who studies the tides of the lower floors, asks him what he remembers about before. And Piranesi doesn't seem, even though he's convinced he remembers everything, doesn't seem to remember anything besides the reality within the house. Whereas the other, I believe, has more of a knowledge of what was before, which leads us to more questions as to, where is this house? How did they end up there and all that? And then going back to Butter Sea, the word that is uttered by the other saying, oh, and what if I say Butter Sea? And Piranesi is like, oh, this is a trick question. There is no sea called that way. And the other sort of, you can tell that probably he wanted to hear something else out of the answer, but that's the answer Piranesi gives. And it makes me wonder whether Butter Sea is actually Battersea in London. I do wonder whether Piranesi the novel takes place in this alternate reality but has something to do with England or the UK at least, because it seems very much a coincidence that Butter, as in Batter, C as in SEA, is something mentioned by the other that doesn't have a connection to our current reality. So I do wonder that, but the story is very gripping. Plenty of questions, very few answers, and a lot of curiosity moving forward. So we'll catch up in a bit. I made myself a tea, which I nearly drunk. Mini Human is playing right next to me, and my beautiful dog is right behind me. I also really feel like watching a really cozy film and doing nothing. Like, oh, my to-do list hasn't been touched. With the exception of Pilates, I haven't done anything. Anything. I mean, I walked the dog, yes, and I did Pilates, yes. The rest of my to-do list is not going to get done. Can you see my dog? Oh my goodness. Hello.
When I'm asked, I will tide. Our love strikes all the underlies. Those tears you shed fall into bed, crawling right from your pretty head. Watch sunrise sounds familiar.
Morning everyone. It's Friday. Okay. Let's have a little chat. What you hear in the background is my baby playing in her gym. So this is what happens to curly hair before they're sorted out in the morning, by the way. Anyway, let's have a little chat about Piranesi because I just finished part 2. Part 2, which is called The Other. Again, is read, it's narrated in the same way the previous part is narrated, so as sort of diary entries written by Piranesi, and he has regular interactions twice a week with the other, who is another man. He's in his 50s or 60s, quite tall, quite fit, and they have very different ways of approaching the house. So for Piranesi, the house is his entire world. The other seems to be more wealthy in a way. He always has a different suit, he has access to shoes, he has access to multivitamin packs. So that already shows a little bit of a difference in between the characters and makes us wonder whether the other has some sort of relationship and access to the outer world. The other is obsessed with the idea of finding this sort of greater knowledge or something that will enlighten them and potentially give them eternal life. And he's trying to convince Piranesi to help him in his endeavors, which Piranesi does up to a certain extent, but he's not as interested in as him with the final quest. The thing that we notice in this chapter is that so another character is introduced in this part, which is the character 16. So 16 at the beginning of the book was potentially introduced as us, as the reader of the diaries, and now we have a more concrete idea of who this person is. Somebody that Piranesi just wanted to somehow believe existed in the halls, but that the other confirms towards the end of part 2 that indeed does exist and does live in the halls, but warns Piranesi against any sort of interaction with them. There is also the mention of a new character who could be the other in my opinion, but could also be somebody else, who is Lawrence, who leaves a note to somebody in the halls expecting a reply, and Piranesi replies to that note. So we have at this stage Lawrence writing notes, the other, who could be Lawrence, could not be Lawrence, and we have Piranesi, but then Piranesi also hears voices of multiple people in the halls, and he hides from them, but at the same time he's intrigued and wonders whether there are more people living in the halls. There are also two facts that I want to mention. One, during one of his trips to sort of help the other determine something that had to do with the stars, Piranesi finds some piece of paper torn in a hole with a lot of birds, and the piece of paper do not necessarily make sense because they are parts of probably a larger piece of writing, but there are some words that stick out. Those words are minotaurs, which are the statues that you'll find in hall number 1, and kill him, kill them, kill. The word kill is mentioned. The other thing that is mentioned, I can't remember what is in this part or the previous part, is the fact that Piranesi has 10 diaries so far, 9 completed and the 10th in the writing, but some pages are missing, and those pages have been torn by somebody, but Piranesi doesn't believe it's himself. I say believe because the other has hinted at the fact that Piranesi has memory problems, so I do wonder whether he doesn't remember tearing the pages apart. Who knows? I'm 2 parts in, I have no idea what's happening, I cannot put this book down. The writing is really, really superb. It really transports you there. It reminds me a little bit in terms of atmosphere, or at least how evocative it is of a place, of Erin Morganson's The Night Circus. It's sort of, generally, I read a page and I'm there. Even though the writing style is different, the emotions that it brings back are so very similar to The Night Circus, and I love that book. Not necessarily for the story, but for the atmosphere that it evoked. So Piranesi is definitely doing a job in that regard. And it feels like a really, I don't know, it's autumn here in London. I'm wearing an interest jumper in this case because mine is in the wash. But yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I'll keep you posted. Now I need to get this sorted and get the baby sorted, and then I'll keep on reading. Hello, I just took a bath and did a face mask, which explains why this looks like this. but it's absolutely fine. I don't mind. I hope you don't mind either. The baby is crying in the background, so if you hear that, no, I'm not mistreating my child. Yes, she is in her own room to sleep. Anyway, while I was in the bath, I started reading part 3 of Piranesi. And we meet a new character, which is quite something, considering how the previous chapter went. And the new character is named by Piranesi as the Prophet. Obviously, if you read the book, you'll understand why Piranesi decides to call this new character the Prophet. This character is also male. He's also older than Piranesi, and he's also dressed with good clothes. They're old, but they're good clothes, which makes us wonder whether he lives somewhere else. And later on, we understand that he has the ability to be in and out of the house or in and out of the halls. We also find out that Piranesi's diaries are way more complex than he himself realized, and that the numbers on the diaries are actually different from the numbers he believes he has assigned to the diaries. This is all I'm going to say with regards to the diaries. But I think I mentioned in a previous clip that I had this impression that Piranesi was sort of losing parts of his memory, and this is confirmed in this chapter. We also see that there is this some of the characters start having an identity, which is very interesting. We still don't know who Piranesi is. We can speculate at this stage. And I do wonder whether he knew before entering the house some of the characters that have so far been named. We also get introduced to the concept of danger. And we get introduced to the concept of danger by this new character that enters the halls and interacts with Piranesi, and basically shows that there is some sort of antagonism going on between 16, who is indeed roaming the halls in search of Piranesi, and the other. And this antagonism might result in some violence from the other towards Piranesi. And there is one sentence that the Prophet says, which is, "You might like to head off the danger by killing him," or something. And this is what the Prophet says to Piranesi with regards to his relationship to the other. So I'm extremely curious to continue with this chapter. And I know the next part is called 16, which I believe I'm assuming is probably going to introduce 16 as a character. And I'm extremely excited to figure out who 16 is. I don't know where it's heading, and I love it. I love how unpredictable it is. I also like how we get sort of more knowledge and more feel for the characters than Piranesi does. He feels very trusting of everyone. He also feels very young with regards to his mind and how he believes everything is told. So it's nice to be sort of the adult reading the character. But anyway, I'll update you later on, most likely tomorrow. So for now, catch you later. Hello. I was trying to film earlier, but then my battery died, which means I had to charge it briefly in order to be able to have another chat. But anyway, I read some more of Piranesi, but I'll update you properly once the battery is fully charged. But I'm about to put the duvet in. Oh, it's so nice. I would like to take a moment to appreciate how soft and squishy this duvet looks. I don't know if camera can portray the extent of squishiness, but it's amazing. Also, do you like my rug? It's from Labrador. And here I have a baby cot with a sleeping baby in it. But anyway, squishy bed. Squishy bed, I can't wait to sleep in it. I am surrounded by mess. My child is very talkative right now, so if you hear little weird noises, most likely goo goo and la la, that's my child right there for you. But I'm not here to talk about children or messy flats. I'm here to talk about, you guessed it, Piranesi. I am near the end. I think I'm less than 50 pages, yeah. 44 pages away from the end. Yeah? And I just wanted to have a little catch up. So I'm not going to say anything about the plot anymore because I feel like if I say something right now, it's going to give away the majority of the story. And I might need to go back in time and edit some of the clips that I filmed earlier in the vlog just to take out some little bits and pieces here and there so that I don't ruin it for you. We have now reached a point where there is a major shift in Piranesi's consciousness. So Piranesi Piranesi evolves as a character. He grows as a character, and with him is understanding of the house. And I think that's the major turning point in the story, because obviously we are being told the story from the perspective of Piranesi. We are reading his diary. We are the person that he refers to as 16, you know, the other person potentially in the house that picks up his diaries and reads them. I am, again, still thoroughly enjoying this book. I like how it is not excessively long. Like, stuff happens fairly quickly, but at the same time it doesn't feel rushed. One of the reasons why I'm really enjoying this novel is because it's transforming. It is changing as the pages pass. So, as I mentioned before, we are reading a novel from the perspective of Piranesi. We are reading his diaries. We are reading his entries in this collection of diaries that he has kept for years and years and years. As the time goes by, we find out more about Piranesi, but we mainly find out more about the other and the house, not the house itself, but sort of the relationship the other has with the house. We also find out more about 16, who Piranesi refers to us, the reader, as 16 in the first part of the novel, but we soon realize 16 might be somebody else according to the other and according to Piranesi. The more the novel goes on, the more it turns into a mystery that needs to be solved. So instead of being just, you know, a piece of literary fiction that might or might not have some mythological background, I'm gonna have to clean that. Instead of being just that, it also turns into something that is more like almost a thriller, but also it might be too early to define a thriller, but still definitely a mystery novel. So that's the nice aspect of Piranesi, and I love how it just moves really quickly, but it doesn't feel like it's moving excessively quickly. So I can't wait to finish this. It's probably going to happen today if we decide to have a good day. Just 1 minute. Or I might finish it tomorrow. Who knows? Hello everyone, welcome to the end of this vlog. Yesterday I finished reading Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, and so I'm just here to wrap up my thoughts about this book. Right, I've got a little helper for this because she won't sit without me today. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying that I really enjoyed Piranesi. I think it's a well-written story. It's very captivating. It's quite short and sweet, so you can just read it in just a few days. what did I want to say about it? I think I particularly appreciated the references to mythology, the references to, I want to say, Christian culture in a way, the references to other pieces of literature, and it all reads very much like, I don't know, almost like a quest for knowledge up to a certain point where it turns into a mystery novel. But it's a mystery novel with aspects that have to do, again, with mythology, with magic. There is this appreciation and understanding of esoteric culture in a way that is very, that is embedded in almost every single page. So it was a pleasant surprise. I mean, no, it wasn't necessarily a surprise. I had a feeling this was going to be really good, and I'm glad it lived up to the expectations. Yes? I'm glad it lived up to the expectations. I think it's also important to address the fact that we're reading a diary. We're not learning anything other than what Piranesi himself is learning, and it's quite nice how the mystery is solved little by little as Piranesi solves the mystery himself. As an external reader, obviously we often feel like we can feel and understand more than Piranesi himself. I've seen some critique of this book linked to the fact that Piranesi is so clueless, but then if you've read the book and if you understood the book, then you understand why he seems to be so clueless. The other thing that I particularly enjoyed is the very end, because it ends with a nice little complete sort of storyline. It doesn't leave you wondering what's going to be. It gives you an idea of how the story has ended, and this is it. This is how it ends, which is great. And it is even as good at doing this that it closes a tiny little storyline that had been left with, you know, suspension marks earlier on in the book. So it closes pretty much every storyline, and the characters that we see all receive some sort of closure in a way. I really enjoyed it. I think if you're looking for something that has to do with fantasy or magic, but that's not normally your cup of tea, like in my case, this might do. I am tempted to read the other book that Susanna Clarke has written, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I don't know what it's about, but it has to do with magic a little bit. And if you enjoyed this book, I think you would definitely enjoy, if you haven't read it already, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. It has a very similar atmospheric feel, and like in this case, the house is sort of like the main protagonist and the main mystery. The Night Circus has the Night Circus as the equivalent of the house, and there is also this element of magic, esotericism and so on at the center of the book, which is great. I feel like another one that is going to be very similar is The Binding, which I'm really tempted to start right away. I'm looking at it right there on my bookshelves. Hey! Right, I don't think this outro is going to be much longer because, as you can see, this little munchkin is being quite needy and I need to go attend my duties as the, care provider for this one. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video or if you've read the book, please do leave a comment down below. That really helps. Same goes with likes and dislikes. If you didn't like this book, if you didn't like... Hello, can you... Ew, I'm covered in spit. Same goes with likes. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, for whatever reason, leave a thumbs down and let me know why. And don't forget to follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at myfullbookshelf, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye. Thank you.